Can you tell us a little bit about the other guys, whether they're still around?
Yeah, you know, I was always interested in getting a reunion of the entire crew, and that kind of hopes for that were dashed here, because in December, Alan Dallas pulled up to a stoplight in Prescott, Arizona, and had a heart attack and slumped over the wheel. And the guy in the car behind him ran into the convenience store there, and they called the paramedics, but they were unable to revive him. So he has passed away. I'm working on some leads to find Dwayne Smith, but I do know where the rest of the crew is. John Gillette has come forward, and he was actually with me in an interview with NBC Today Show, Weekend Edition, February 12th, year before last. The very day I got the news about my brother's passing was the day the story aired. So if you want to YouTube NBC Today Show Weekend Edition, you'll see him in an interview with us. And one of the things that really impressed one of the producers for the National Geographic special was John telling him that what happened that day was more frightening to him than his experience in Vietnam. And so, you know, James Fox, that producer, you know, done some very good UFO documentaries, wanted to include him in the story, and he called the producers and they refused. And he was very upset about that, so he just paid John's travel to Heber, where they were filming, out of his own pocket, filming with his own equipment, and they still refused to use it. So if you'd like to see that documentary with John Gillette, it's there. And Open Minds TV also has done an interview with John Gillette and with Steve Pearson. There's some interesting stuff there. But Mike Rogers has had some strokes, and his health is not really up to him coming and talking with me like he used to. And so, you know, Ken and Steve and John have done so. Some of the other people have passed away. Sheriff, Deputy Flake has passed away. Somebody over here had a question. Yeah.
People who have had abduction experiences have reported that ongoing health problems and health issues, and also that some people seem to be plagued by visitations throughout a good portion of their lives. Have you experienced either of those?
Well, that multiple experience thing is something I don't like to talk about, but there was a thing that happened when I was a kid. I had this, what at the time my family believed was a very vivid dream, in which this little bald-headed man, I woke up and he was dragging, see, it was hot summer in Phoenix, and we would sleep in the hallway where the cooler blew through there. Didn't have refrigeration, we had evaporative coolers, and we were sleeping in the hallway there, and I woke up to have somebody grabbing the blankets that I was sleeping on and dragging them, and it was this little man. And I woke up the next morning and told the family about it, and it was so vivid, I spent the morning looking for where this guy had escaped, because it was this huge old house that hidden things in the walls and stuff. And so, you know, they made fun of me about the little man with the briefcase, but other than that, there's nothing I really want to talk about. Now, the other part of your question was health, and you know, I had some health consequences because of the huge stress I was under right after it happened. Some skin rashes and lack of sleep and that sort of thing. But other than that, I've been very healthy ever since, and no kind of problems at all. Another question.
Did you ever find out, go back and find out more about what happened to you during that 5-day period?
One thing that was really interesting, okay, Dr. Harder did the hypnosis, and he came to a block that suggested that there were other memories that he wasn't able to access, that there was some kind of threat about accessing them, that I might die if he continued. Well, I found out later, Kathy Martin told me that Dr. Harder, after been in an investigation of my hypnosis, he had gone to visit Betty Hill, and Kathy was there at the time, and Dr. Harder explained that the reason he had been reluctant to push the hypnosis to try to get at those other memories is that he was afraid that if he regressed me back to a time in which I was in cardiac arrest, that he might actually put me in cardiac arrest. And of course, hypnosis wouldn't bring you out of that. So he wisely didn't push that, and it kind of explains my own fear of allowing that to pursue any farther. Now, during the time that I was doing all those interviews for the movie, I started having these little glimmers of memories come back to me, but they were just little blips of stuff that didn't tell any kind of story. I couldn't make any sense by themselves. You had a question?
Yeah, I've had a lot of negative from the government. I was working with the Department of Defense, and all the witnesses were dead by the end of the summer, which was 3 witnesses. So I've seen a very vicious side of the government on this.
Yeah, that's for sure. And they'll even sick the IRS on you. And Mike had some stuff like that, and he caught him at it, and they had to put the money back. They actually went into his bank account and started taking small, random amounts without any sort of letter or any sort of authorization, no judgment, no nothing. And he went to the bank and demanded to know, and they said, well, we're not supposed to tell you, but the IRS is doing this. And so Mike confronted him about it, and they paid all the money back with interest. Now, what was going on there? That was totally illegal, totally unauthorized, and then they give him the money back with interest. That's really strange, and why a kind of a random amount? It was, to me, I really don't know for sure that it was anything more than harassment, but definitely outside the law. Somebody else had a question.
Have you developed any psychic abilities, like from the experience?
I knew you were going to say that. I'm just joking. Matt, you had a question.
My question is dealing with Bill Flaps. Now,
Yeah.
you're talking about him offering $10,000 to people to basically fabricate about what they saw. Have you ever thought about looking into his tax records? Because tax records are public.
Well, I didn't know that was public record. No, certainly now that he's passed away, they would have less reason to hold back on that. Same reason the FOIA was successful, because he's no longer alive. But still, in spite of everything that was included in that file, it's amazing how much was redacted. It's understandable when they, block out the names of the agents, but that's only proper that they would not allow the agent's name to go out. But huge blocks of what are they hiding? It always makes you wonder.
When you were in the center with the chair,
Yeah.
do you remember seeing anything else in that room? Like a tall kind of voltage thing? Like things you see at the electric plants.
I didn't see anything like what you're describing there in that room.
You see it in any other portion of the ship you were on?
It may be, that it might not have been under power at that time. It might have been just I was controlling some sort of a viewer and not really controlling the ship, which would explain why I didn't crash it. But somebody else had a question over here. Where was that? Okay. Yeah.
On a recent Larry King special, James Fox was on, along with Skeptic Magazine, Michael Sherman, and we were discussing your case. And Michael Sherman said, "Oh no, don't believe Travis. He recently failed a new lie detector test." Can you speak to that at all?
Michael Shermer is a skeptic of kind of along the lines of felt class and dishonest. See, Michael Shermer actually did a show in which he totally discounted the value of polygraph, period. And then he turns around and says, well, polygraphs disprove me. In other words, he's of the opinion that if he can find something polygraph that says no, oh, that's good. But all the stuff for, he's against. I did go on a show that was fake polygraph. It was all just pretend, all fake stuff. The tests that I passed were all from legitimate polygraph examiners with law enforcement background. The guy that did this, was working for this TV show, was in violation of every single tenet that is listed in the police polygraph examiner's list of practices of illegal examiners or whatever. They did everything wrong. I've had what was done on that show reviewed by the top experts in the field, the people who write the textbooks. And everything there was just totally bogus from the get-go. They only did one run through the questions. If you have a random reaction to something, you have nothing to compare it to. So there's no way to verify that that wasn't just a momentary pain in your elbow or a random thought passing through your head. But it was totally bogus. The polygraph examiner, Cy Gilson, calls the guy that did those tests a whore, and the show was his pimp. It's worse. Some of the top experts in the field who have written the textbooks and have done work for the FBI, the CIA, and various government agencies around the world have actually written personally about this. And you know what? Michael Shermer knows about this, but being dishonest, he's going to hide the fact that he knows that the methods and everything that was there was totally bogus. They showed a little film strip of me taking a test. It wasn't even the examiner, it was an actor. And they showed me with my arm resting on a table comfortably like it's supposed to be. But in the actual test, there was this little thin steel rail on the side of the chair that I had to hold still for. A proper test only has 4 questions. All of my recent tests, or the accepted method now, is 4 questions, because there are basic physiological reasons why you start getting bad results if you try to go over that. I actually tried to get these examiners to include more questions than I wanted covered, but they wouldn't do it because it's not proper procedure. This show was using over 50 questions, one at a time, one version of them, and it was just totally bogus. And it's totally absurd because Ken Peterson, one of the crewmen, was on that show. He passed, supposedly, the questions he was asked and given the prize money. And he was there. I answered other questions that they deemed to be truthful that related to the incident. But when it came to the big prize, it was all just, a fake reality show. And it was a very regrettable incident. I never should have agreed to do that. But I challenge Mr. Sherman to produce one reputable polygraph examiner who would defend the practices that were used on that show. It's a total joke. And there's actually a guy that, a polygraph expert in the state of New York, Global Polygraph Network. He formed a website dedicated to the show right after the show came online. And this was long before I was involved at all. And he was basically dismissing and attacking the methods that were used there across the board, saying there's absolutely no way you could possibly have an accurate test using these methods, and that you could basically get equivalent accuracy by flipping a coin. And what's kind of unfortunate is that Michael Shermer, he's a likable guy in person. He's not like Philip Klass, who was really kind of nasty in his personality, is being so dishonest. He gave me a copy of his book, I gave him a copy of mine, but he has yet to read it. there's all kinds of, he continues to use things that I have completely refuted and proven to be false, and he continues to use them. But skeptics are like that. There's another skeptic out there, his name's Anson Kennedy. He has a website in which he takes Phil Klass's line of garbage and repeats it. And I go on there to try to post the evidence against it, and he won't put mine up there. Basically what he wants to do, and what skeptics are really doing, they're propagandists. They don't want a fair examination of the facts. They want to fool the public. If they were honest, then they would show both sides of it. I wrote up a complete description of everything that went on with the Michael Shermer situation, and he said that he was going to put that on his website, but I have yet to check to see if he actually did, because, people like that are so close-minded. In that show that he was on with James Fox, he continually uses the line of reasoning, the reasoning pattern that skeptics have, where they'll take and say, this is unproven, and they just act like unproven absolutely equals disproven. Well, everybody knows that a polygraph isn't 100% perfect, but it's still being used by the CIA and the FBI, and so Michael Shermer's assertion that it's on the one hand that it's not any good and shouldn't be disregarded at all, but then if this bogus show that every reputable examiner discredits, well, if he can dig up something about that, they just use me for ratings, and I'll publish a more thorough description of that if Mr. Shermer fails to put on his website what I sent to him. It's really kind of shameful, the kinds of things these guys do. But I have nothing to be ashamed of there. They were the bogus ones, not me. Anyway, 5 minutes, more questions? Back in the back there.
Yeah, what's your opinion regarding the Phoenix Lights?
The Phoenix Lights, was kind of interesting because it was 1 year from the release of the movie. And, it happened, the movie was released on, let's see, what was it, May? Anyway, it was one solar cycle, 1 year exactly, except for the fact that it was leap year. So it was 1 day off, but it was actually 1 year from the release of Fire in the Sky, the movie. And I think the Phoenix Lights thing definitely did happen, and the attempt to blow it off as flares is just a cover up. But I still am open to the idea that it wasn't aliens, that it might have been a secret government contract, craft of some sort. And that's just my opinion. I'm no expert on anything, but these descriptions of these triangular craft, I've spoken to many people who have seen them, and I definitely believe that they're being sighted. But let's get some more questions in real fast because we're running out of time.
Yeah, I'd like to know, what's your take on why the EPs brought you on board?
Well, right after it happened, I went with the term abduction. And Steve thinks that, they were after me in particular, but I really think that it was kind of an accident, that I got myself hurt, and that had they left me there for the crew to take to the hospital, it would have been over an hour, whether they took me to the Shola Hospital or the Payson Hospital. And if I was just in cardiac arrest, it only takes 4 to 6 minutes for brain death to occur. And so the only way that I was going to survive was if they took me aboard and revived me. So I'm thinking that it was actually more of an ambulance call than an abduction. And that, that's consistent with the, fact that I was not dumped back in the woods where I might have froze to death, but placed near where I could get help.
Thank you.
I got one more. After you returned from all that, did you notice any different feelings in your body that you haven't never noticed before?
Well, I definitely, my whole life was different after that. It was like my life was derailed, and there was nothing was the same anymore. But
No, I mean like inside, like mentally, you didn't notice any like.
well, you know, I definitely expanded my perception of things in a much more universal sort of way. You know, I realized that there's definitely far more than the average person might be aware of. And I mean, it's not just, I mean, everybody kind of thinks along those lines, but I know for sure. And that certainty, you know, makes me feel set apart in a way that's quite distinct.
Have you ever been checked for implants or ever thought you might have had an implant?
I got a phone call last year, some guy was saying, well, you got, just check for implants, like, you know, that mark that was on your arm that the doctor looked at, that really helped fuel the drug hallucination kind of theory, but nobody injects hallucinogens, and the doctor said it was not over any major blood vessel. But this guy suggested that I take a really powerful magnet and place it over the top of that site where that wound was, and I didn't feel nothing. It didn't seem to. I had upper body x-rays as part of my medical exam, and nothing was detected. Of course, I don't know if they know what they were looking for back then. Another question. Well, thanks for coming. I appreciate it. There's nothing to cover. There's still a lot more on the book. So, I'll be able to, thank you. Thank you very much.
Can I just have all speakers up on the stage, please?
I think I'm going to be up there with you.
Oh. Yeah, and then ears up.
Could you grab a photo?
Close down.
Should I get up there?
Well, if you want to.
Yeah, you want me to? Hold on. One more. Okay, maybe like 17,000 more.
Everybody else set?
Wait,
All right, wait, All right, we've got a bunch of stuff on the table. I'm going to read the numbers. What you can do, there's a round table right in the middle. Just